All right. Welcome to the Blitz, and it is rivalry weekend. We have come to the final week of the regular season on this incredible journey. Thank you, each and every one of you, have been tuning in regularly here live on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Of course, we're going a day early because it's Thanksgiving, and joining me, as per usual, Ralph Michaels and Ross Benjamin is back this week. We'd like to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. But let's get into the games. You're going to start with the game, Ohio State and Michigan. Ralph, I was on with Prez and Joe Ranieri earlier this week on their program, the best betting show ever. And I was telling Joe that look, Ryan Day's job security is obviously fine. They're not going to string the man up on a pole if he loses this game. However, and I'm going to you first because I think you know this as well, having ties to the state of Ohio. Ryan Day needs to win this football game on Saturday after 4 consecutive losses to Michigan. Now, when I say needs to win it, again, will he keep his job if he loses? Yes. Is Ohio State going to still make the college football playoff? Yes. However, I think he wants to win this game. And I think he wants to win it by margin. Your thoughts on what happens Saturday, noon Eastern, in Ann Arbor?
Well, it's not a Pittsburgh situation when the coach says, I'd rather lose by 50 to Notre Dame and win those next 2 games. I'll tell you one thing. Last year, losing to Michigan benefited Ohio State not playing in the national championship and making the run. So, hey, the best thing may be not to win this game. So I sort of disagree with you, but I understand the program of the game and Ohio State, Michigan, and, and needing to not get swept as far as the recruiting goes. But I want to mention this because you mentioned rivalry, Brian. My power ratings say Ohio State by 17, but I will not be on Ohio State. Why are my power ratings so far off? Well, I don't adjust weekly for injuries. So, you have Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. Both we're not quite sure what's going to happen here. And they're an entirely different team if they play or not play. I mean, normally the quarterback's the most important player. On the Ohio State team, Jeremiah Smith may be the most important player on this program. You see the way the offense is different when he's not there. When they don't have those 2 in and they could double team the number 3, yes, they put up 440 yards against Rutgers in the win last week. But let's remember, Rutgers was the worst defensive yards per play in the country. So to only get 430 is not a positive. It's actually a negative. For Michigan, I would say this. It is their most important game. If you polled the players and coaches on the side and said to Michigan, would you rather beat Ohio State and lose your bowl game by 20 or lose to Ohio State and win your bowl game by 20? I'm sure they'd rather beat Ohio State and lose their bowl game. That's why the rivalry is so different. And to be honest with you, it's the only week in college football I really don't even use my power ratings because these rivalries are so intense and they're such an equalizer between the 2 teams. With that said, we've seen Michigan and their young quarterback mature throughout the season in Bryce Underwood. We've seen them with 5 straight wins. We've seen them outgain their last 5 opponents by 170 yards per game. They're playing well down the stretch. The defense did allow 347 yards to Maryland, which is one of Maryland's best performances. But again, that was on the road after playing Northwestern in a brutal battle at Wrigley Field. I'm going to go under here. It's a situation where, let me change that. I'm going to go under first half. Because if one of these teams get behind, you're going to see Michigan start doing some double reverses and fake punts and things like that. They're in a position where they can do that. Ohio State doesn't care if they win this game by 1 or by 10. It'll be a feel-good win. They'll advance. They'll be the number 1 seed in the playoffs. So big difference in motivation here. I'm going to go first half under. Both teams run the ball. Try to establish the line of scrimmage. And actually, the under may make my card for this week, the first half under.
Oh, well, that's very interesting because if I saw this correctly, earlier today on WagerTalk today, Ross Benjamin broke down the total for this matchup. And I think there may be some agreement here. Ross, it's very interesting. Prior to last year, these teams had gone over 9 straight times against one another, Ohio State, Michigan. You think the history of this rivalry, you think obviously kind of, a low-scoring game, but college football's changed. These teams have changed with it. Last year, like I said, though, it was kind of a low total, and it was that, conservative offensive approach Ohio State went with that had all those people calling for Day's head in the immediate aftermath of the loss. What do you think here in terms, because I know you have a take on the total, and why don't you share that again in case the people haven't thought it yet? That'll talk today.
I'll simplify it. You got the number one team in total defense and scoring defense in Ohio State, 212 yards a game and 6.8 yards per contest allowed. And this is a team that's playing in a power conference against some pretty good competition. Boy, oh boy. They've allowed 16 points or fewer in all 11 games this season. Michigan's defense, on the other hand, not bad themselves. I mean, number 31 in total defense nationally at 298.3 yards per game. They only allow a little more than 16 points per contest. 3-0 in conference, 3-0 to the under in conference home games for Michigan, and 3-0 to the under in conference away, 4-0 to the under actually in conference away games for Ohio State. In both the 3-0 under in conference home games for Michigan, 34 points per game, and the 4 unders in conference away games for Ohio State, 39.5 points per game. Sometimes we just need to keep it simple and not overcomplicate things, Brian. And we're all guilty of overcomplicating things sometime. Hopefully I'm not doing that here. Ohio State and Michigan under the total of 44.
All right. I like it. So we have a first half under, a full game under. And Ralph, I think you would like to follow up with something.
I did. I gave this note to the Gold Sheet, so it's in their write-up for this week. And this shocked me. Since 2019, this is only the 9th time that 2 teams with 9 wins have played each other in the final week of the regular season. That seems very short to me in 7 years. So that's only one a year. But I went back and checked all the data. By the way, they've gone over all 9 by 9.2 points per game. Now, a couple of those were the Ohio State-Michigan games, so those are in that mix. But again, only 9 times since 2019 have 2 teams played the final week of the regular season with 9 straight wins. Okay. With 9 wins each. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me correct Ralph, if I may. Ralph, if Ohio State wins against Michigan, whether it be by 1 or 10, the way you phrased it, and they get to the Big Ten title game, they're going to have to play Indiana, barring an upset by Purdue over Indiana this week, which is highly unlikely. Indiana wins that game, they're not going to be the number 1 seed in the college football playoffs. That would go to Indiana, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I no question. I just meant they don't have to win this game by any margin. Right. They just have to win out. If they win by 1 point and 1 point, they're going to be the number 1 seed.
Yeah, I think it's what I meant. Just a couple things. I think Michigan, I talk about here, I know a lot of us talk about is this team as good as its record? Are they better than their record, worse than their record? I think Michigan, their record, they're one of the few teams I would say very accurate representation of what they are. All 9 games they've been favored, the Wolverines this season. They've won. The 2 they've been a dog. They've lost. I'm going to say I think Ohio State wins this game. I think they win it by margin. Pardon me, by the way, John, here. Sometimes I go into business for myself and work the chat. So Adam has this comment in terms of rivalries. He says rivalries in general mean less now in the NIL era. Half the kids are either new or aren't sticking around that long. Anyways, means more to fans and boosters. I wouldn't disagree with that point. I would argue that it's always probably meant more to the fans and boosters. And never is that more apparent than the next game in our rundown, guys. Let's go a little bit later on Saturday to the Iron Bowl, Alabama and Auburn, a rivalry where one man that once caused a man to poison a tree. That was unfortunate, but that's in the past now. We're going to talk about covering spreads, not trees here. Let me go to Ross. Actually, first on this one, Alabama, obviously a favorite here. They've taken a little bit of money. I thought the number opened a little short, to be honest with you. Myself, they've got a possible SEC championship game in front of them. Auburn, it's just been one of those kind of years where nothing goes right. Alabama, I assume, is going to be a pretty public side in this. What do you think?
Yeah, I would think so because of everything. The importance of the game for them in terms of getting to the SEC title game. And then once you're in the SEC title game, you pretty much win or lose, assure yourself of being in the college football playoffs. Auburn, on the other hand, playing with a lame duck coaching staff after Hugh Freeze got fired. A lot of uncertainty in the program, a lot of instability in the program. That's not the case at Alabama right now. Look, it's a rivalry game, and I think the line is pretty accurate when you consider the fact this is an Auburn team that's gone 1-6 in their last 7 games against FBS opponents, but all 6 of their losses have come by 10 points or fewer. Alabama, though, I think is the better side here. I think they're better on both sides of the ball. And I know this rivalry carries a lot of weight. And by the way, Auburn on their home field this year, 0-3 straight up in ATS against SEC opponents. I'm going to have a small lean toward Alabama. Sometimes the public is right, Brian.
They are, as much as we sometimes tell you that they're not. Yes, even the public does get them right. Ralph, it's interesting. Auburn, Ross mentioned them losing close quite a bit this season. Well, home team in this rivalry is on an 11-1-1 run against the number. Bama, they failed to cover their last 4 visits to Jordan-Hare. As a matter of fact, the last 3 times these teams have played at Auburn, the games have been decided by a total of 8 points. So there are some trends that kind of support the dog here. And, Auburn's generally been losing close, and they do need a win if they want to get bowl. I don't know how much the players care about becoming bowl eligible and, playing in some random bowl, but that is on the table for Auburn. So what do you think here?
I'll tell you what, you may say the players don't care. That is night and day for the coaches to have those practices, to get those 15 extra practices, yes, to start working on those freshmen. So while the players may not be too excited to go to mid-major bowl, the coaches in the program need to get to the bowl. So what happens when a team is 5-6 and they have pressure to try to get that 6th win in the bowl? Since 2014, they've covered 38.5% against the spread. So just because if a team is a home dog and they need to win, that doesn't mean you're going to need to win. It means there's added pressure. So that's something that people sometimes put too much weight on. Of course, both teams have pressure here. And like we've seen with many rivalries, if you finish 6-6 and beat Bama, some people will call it a successful season, even though Auburn had other expectations. Remember, Auburn was just blasted with some bad plays early. Oklahoma, 7-point loss. At A&M, 6-point loss. Georgia, 10-point loss, where they only were outgained by 19 yards. Missouri, a 6-point loss. Kentucky, a 7-point loss. And Vanderbilt, a 7-point loss. A season for what could have been and should have been, goes down the tube. As far as Bama is concerned, you're looking at an offense that has become more efficient. You're looking at Ty Simpson with a 22-4 ratio. But the rush attack is what scares me for Alabama. The last 4 weeks, they've only rushed for 3.3 yards per carry. Now, their defense is holding firm. The Auburn rush defense, there's nothing wrong with that. The only time they've given up over 170 yards all season was at Texas A&M, but they only allowed 4.4 yards per carry. I think Auburn can hang around for the first half. I think they have enough motivation to come out. I think Alabama ran the ball. Again, it was Eastern Illinois last week, but even looking prior to that, they don't run the ball early. And DeBoer talked about needing to establish the run early as he goes into the playoffs. With that said, slightest of lean with Auburn just because I think the motivation keeps them up. But my official best bet here will be first half Auburn plus the points.
All right. 2 first half plays in 2 games there from Ralph. Ross, yes?
Yeah, I mean, Ralph makes a good point on 5-6 teams needing to win and how important it is to the coaching staffs to get those additional 15, 16 practices. In most cases, that's true. I think in this particular case, it's of little importance when you stop and think about 95% or more of this coaching staff isn't going to be there next year. A lot of these kids are going to transfer out from Auburn because it's going to be a new coaching staff. So 99% of the time, Ralph is right. But in this particular instance, the importance of getting to and getting 15 additional practices by going to a mid-major bowl game type of thing, if you will, is of little effect here.
All right. Well, all right. That's 2 games in, guys. We have several more to go in our rundown. We're going to be sticking to the SEC up next. Any game you guys want us to talk about? It's very simple how you get us to do that. You just comment down below, all of you who are watching this show live. And we thank you again. While you're watching us, how about smashing that like button? If you already haven't done so, subscribe to the WagerTalk YouTube channel. That is the easiest way to ensure you don't miss any of our outstanding sports betting content we've got going all week. I know that I've done about 100 shows today already, so you can catch at least 2 of them if you've clicked subscribe. All right, let's talk Tennessee Vanderbilt. And I believe, if I have in my notes correctly there, Ross, that this will be a portion of the best bet. Of course, guys, don't forget at the end of the show, Ralph, Ross, and I will all be sharing a best bet. So I'm going to go to Ralph here for Vandy and Tennessee first. And Ross, you can save your opinion for the end of the program.
There are not many times we get to week 12 of a college football season, and there's a stat that pops out to me that actually shocks me. You know, I look at rankings every week when I go into this. How about if I told you in college football this year, the team that has the most efficient offense in the country, number 1 in yards per play, is Vanderbilt. Now, they don't show up in the offensive ranks because they play very slow. Their plays per game are about 110, but Vanderbilt is the most efficient offense. They are number 1 in the country in yards per play. We know Tennessee wants to play fast. Tennessee on the season averaging 73 plays per game. That is number 11 in the country. We look at the offenses year to date. Number 4 and number 19. We look at the scoring offenses year to date. Number 4 and number 9. We look at the defenses. Number 55 and 75. We look at the scoring defenses. Number 42, number 84. Also, both teams are very good in explosive plays 10 yards and longer, number 3 and number 11. But when we look at what these teams allow on explosive plays of 10 yards or more, they're number 91 and 98. Folks, they line up across the board. The offenses, the defense, the explosive plays on defense. Yes, Vanderbilt is a slower pace, but if Tennessee's going to score, Vanderbilt will have to pick up the pace to score as well. Give me the over in this one. I'll sort of repeat what Ross said. Sometimes the obvious is just that obvious, and don't talk yourself out of it. So, Ross, sorry for stealing your line, but it certainly is appropriate here.
Yeah. Brilliant minds think alike, Ralph.
Brian, you're muted, buddy.
That's always well to do, right? It helps when people can hear what you're saying. But you'll hear what Ross has to say about this game at the end of the show. Again, a best bet coming from each of us at the end of the program. Let's now look. What makes this week so special, obviously, it's not just Saturday. We've got games on Friday. If you're catching us live here, always helps. You'll be getting these. So hopefully all of you are catching this before some of these Friday games kick off. Next on the docket is Texas A&M and Texas. Texas A&M obviously has it all still in front of them. An SEC championship on the table, an undefeated season, a first-round bye in the college football playoff. They're a short favorite here against a Texas team that, they don't really have anything left to play. They're not going to make the college football playoff. I see you smiling, Ross, and because of that, I'm going to go to you. What do you think here? Texas A&M's lived a charmed life this season. They're one of those teams every year. There's a couple of teams that the ball just bounces their way, it seems, in every game. What do you think about this one?
Well, you know what, Brian? If it looks like a fish and smells like a fish, you know what it is? Fishy. And that's just what this line is. I mean, stop and think about this for a second, folks. You got an unbeaten number 3 team in the country at 11-0 in Texas A&M. As just a 2.5-point favorite, even being on the road, that still jumps out at me because they're facing a Texas team with 3 losses and only a 2.5-point favorite. So what, 8.5 point favorite if they were at home against a 3-loss team when you're unbeaten with so much at stake. With a win, they get to the SEC title game. With a win in the SEC title game, they end up with a first-round bye in the playoffs. A lot to play for Texas A&M. In Texas, I think they have a glimmering hope, a very, very small hope of getting to the college football playoffs, but highly unlikely. Most likely, they're going to be playing in a high-profile bowl game that's not the college football playoffs. And I don't know, you know what, in sports betting, Ralph, more times than not, if it looks too good to be true, it is. And this might be a textbook example of such. So I'm going to stay away from this game just because it does not make sense, Brian.
All right. Ralph, your thoughts, Texas A&M.
I'll be on this game. And I just think the line is low because of this. The Texas Longhorns get so much freaking love. Arch Manning gets so much freaking love. I was on a show last week and someone says, well, Arch Manning's finally turning it around and he's leading this team. Well, let me tell you what turning around looks like. They go to Kentucky. They get outgained by 216 yards. They go to Mississippi State, a team that has 5 wins. They got outgained by 17 yards. They host Vanderbilt. They have a 5-yard edge. They go to Georgia. They get outgained by 83 yards. And they got outgained by 22 yards last week at home against Arkansas. They've been outgained 4 of their last 5 games, and the only yard that they had an edge was they were down against Vanderbilt game. So to me, I am not buying. I am drinking the Kool-Aid on Texas A&M. Them going to Notre Dame and winning impressed me. Them being undefeated impressed me. And Brian, while you said A&M has been the very fortunate team, Texas has been one of the most fortunate teams in the entire country. They're plus 10 turnovers on the season. Teams at plus 10 turnovers usually only have 1 or 2 losses. A&M on the season, minus 5 turnovers. So the luck factor doesn't work for me here. A&M has had to play harder and has played harder. Let me just give you a couple stats. These are in SEC games. Texas A&M, number 8, plus 144 yards per game. Texas, 95, getting outgained by 58 yards per game in SEC action. And yards per play, Texas A&M, number 12, Texas, number 62. I think this is just an overreaction to Texas and Arch Manning. Marcel Reed gets it done. A&M goes into the SEC championship undefeated and locks up a playoff berth.
All right, there you have it. I saw in the chat someone mentioned that, A&M certainly is going to probably come out a little sharper than they did in that game against South Carolina. That goes without saying. I think that was a flat spot for the Aggies. One thing, though, we need to point out with this A&M team, you look at their schedule and who they've faced so far in the SEC. Their SEC opponents, guys, have a combined 11-40 straight-up record in conference play. They got kind of, I think, the fortunate SEC. Look, there's no such thing as an easy schedule in the SEC, but relative to some of the other teams, I think A&M's schedule is easy. And I'm going to say this. I don't think this is the week you play against A&M. I think it's next week in the SEC championship game you play against Texas A&M. I do not think they will win that game no matter the opponent.
Brian, I'm going to just bring this up because we're on the final week of the regular season. For those people that do futures next year, rating the crossover games are the most important thing when you're betting season win totals because A&M avoided Georgia, they avoided Alabama, and sometimes sneak up. But crossovers are vital to know your crossover games. And now, they're changing. Remember when Ross and I were young, you played the same 6 people and maybe 2 games change. Right now, when you have 28 teams in your conference, there may not be any crossover games. There may be a new conference every year. But again, when we were division-wise, that was my number one go-to. Looking at that when I did my team totals or my season win totals.
Yeah, and if you guys follow me on either Twitter or Instagram, I sent out a video about a week or so ago highlighting. I had A&M over 8.5 wins. I before the season, I thought this was going to be a good team. John Hoagland, by the way, who's producing us today. Thank you, John, for stepping in for Dan. Made a very nice video for me with the ka-ching sound. I appreciated that. That was one of the several win totals we cashed on our preseason edition of the Power 5. By the way, they were plus 150. to get over 8.5. Texas A&M. I thought that was a good bet. And in retrospect, it was a good bet. One more game on our rundown to get to. Then we're going to talk about what we've got going on this weekend at WagerTalk.com. And then we're going to get to the chat before we get to the best bets. And the last game on our rundown is also a Friday game. And, well, we know what they're going to be talking about on the broadcast during Ole Miss, Mississippi State. Obviously, you can't handicap this game without mentioning, Ross, the unknown status of Lane Kiffin's future in Oxford. And does that matter to you? Talk about it. It's got to be a distraction for them. This is a team that, if they win, they're going to the college football playoff, but they don't know if their coach is going to be there. Yeah. I mean, so welcome to 2025 in college football.
What an oddity. And, it's got to affect the players. I think it would affect them a lot more if this team was just 7-3 or 8-3, I should say, going into their final game, and they were just going to go to a bowl game. But with so much at stake, I think the players themselves are going to play for themselves. So I don't think it'll be quite as impactful as it normally would. I mean, I'm not a Lane Kiffin guy. Brian, you know what? Here's the thing. He keeps getting all these big contracts, right? Mm-hmm. He's never won a national title. And now here he is in a position to win a national title for the first time, and he's jumping ship before the playoffs start. This guy's an idiot. I'm sorry. I'm not a proponent of Lane Kiffin. Anyway, look, here's the thing. Ole Miss, 3-0 to the over in conference away games this year, 63.7 points per game. Mississippi State, 3-0 in conference home games, 73.3 points per game. Mississippi State, 4-0 to the over in their last four overall. All four games had 62 points or more being scored. Their defense in the last four just horrific, meaning Mississippi State, 42.5 points per contest, 466 yards per contest. Their offense over the last five hasn't been bad, 29 points per game, 393 yards per contest, all against SEC competition. But this defense, too, I mean, not only the numbers I just gave you, Ralph, they allowed 300 yards or more rushing in their last two games. On the other hand, Ole Miss, an offensive juggernaut, we know that, and against a vulnerable defense such as Mississippi State, I think they'll be able to move the ball at will, but I still think Mississippi State will move the ball on Ole Miss as well, because you look at Ole Miss defense during SEC play, allowing 26 points and 367 yards per game, not exactly dominant. So I'm going to have a small lean here on Ole Miss and Mississippi State to go over the total of 62.
Well, that would be an interesting result there, Ross. Why? Because I'm sure Ralph knows the last 8 Egg Bowls, that is the name of this rivalry, of course, have all stayed under the total.
Yep.
But I think Ross made a pretty compelling argument why this game on Friday may buck the trend. What do you think, Ralph?
I got a question for you guys. Growing up, when I say what is the traditional Thanksgiving Day game, do you think the Egg Bowl or you think Texas A&M? How the hell did we get Memphis and Navy this year?
Yeah, I know that was my first thought. I mean, it was. So I'm old enough to remember when it was Texas A&M, but yeah, this game was always on Thanksgiving until what, last 2 years? I mean, yeah. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. It was still played on.
At least one of those teams has a chance to get to the college football playoffs. It's a long shot, but Navy's still alive.
Yeah. They'll have to beat Tulane. I think Tulane's in the driver's seat there, but that's a subject for another talk. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna agree with Ross here. You look at Mississippi. And their offense is averaging 494 yards per game. And they're averaging 450 in the SEC. That's pretty impressive with 25 first downs per game. You look at the Mississippi State defense, you want to talk about a train wreck. Ross mentioned the last 2 games allowing over 300 yards. And by the way, 6.9 yards per carry versus Georgia, 8.4 carries versus Missouri. Now we know Ole Miss loves to run the ball. They are up tempo, but it's by running the ball first. That really can wear down a defensive line. They ran the ball 48 times to Florida, past 35. They ran 45 times against South Carolina for 5.7. Mississippi State gets that run game going, and they're not going to be able to stop them. The defense, though, again, they've got some decent numbers late, but that was the competition. You look at their last 4 weeks, you have to throw that out because they played South Carolina when they were struggling, and they played Citadel and then Florida. So their defense is basically rested. They've had 2 straight bye weeks with Citadel and Florida. I am going to go a little more specific, though. With the Ole Miss defense, the way it's playing, with the Mississippi pace and run game against this D-line, I'm going to go Ole Miss team total over. Not really, no real opinion on the game here. Mississippi State, another one of these, and I agree with Ross. When you have these in-state rivalries, these 5 and 6 records aren't as important. But remember, I bring up these trends so you can use them in all the games, not just the specific game we're talking about. Team total, Ole Miss over for me.
All right, couple looks at the over. I'm going to tell you guys this. If you force me to make a play in this game, I'm taking the points with Mississippi State. I think Ole Miss is coming in distracted here, and strange things happen this last weekend of the college football regular season. And if you don't want strange things to happen to you, well, you should go to WagerTalk.com, where all 3 of us will be very, very busy with a lot of plays this weekend. You can rest assured. Obviously, we've got a great Thanksgiving week special, I should say, if we want to throw that up on the screen right now, John. 7 days for $67. Guys, this is among the very best specials we offer the entire year, and this will get you covered. All sports, all plays, 7 days from the handicapper of your choice across every sport. And you can get it for all 3 of us, Ralph, Ross, and I. You can also stack it as well and get multiple weeks from your favorite handicapper. I know I already have a bet out in the NFL for Thanksgiving. And trust me, there's a lot of college football coming for both Friday and Saturday as well. So that is me, WT.buzz/BP. You can get that, again, all starts tomorrow with a big total in the NFL. Ross, why don't you tell the people what you've got going on in your neck of the woods there for this very, very busy weekend of sports betting?
In my neck of the woods, it's awfully cold, Brian. Thank you for asking.
Same here.
I appreciate your concern. Anyway, well, yeah, you're in Ohio. What am I thinking? Anyway, I got all 3 games in the NFL on Thanksgiving Day. I got 3 winners, two sides, 1 total, and NFL coming off a 4-1 week. Weekend Warrior special, folks. It continues to roll. Over the last 2 weekends, 11-3-1 with my Weekend Warrior package. I've only had 2 losing weekends since the 2nd week of September. My college football continues to roll as I'm hitting 64% of my plays this year, 34-19 to be exact, over 53 units in net profit. And number 2 in units earned this year, number 1 last year, number 2 in 2023. And over the last 3 college football seasons, a combined number 1 in units earned with over 133 units in net profit in college football. And my NFL and college football combined since the end of last December, somewhere in the neighborhood. I wish I had the numbers in front of me. Let me see if I could check them real quick. Bear with me, guys. Anyway, it's pretty damn good. It's like 64% NFL college football since the end of this. 62%. I take that back, since the end of December. So take advantage of that Weekend Warrior special. NBA off to a 16-9 start, 64% to the season, and then going back to last year, 30-14. So a lot of great stuff. But Weekend Warrior special, $49, and that includes our 5% best bets and 6-0 with my college football, NFL 5% best bets the last 3 weeks.
All right, Ralph, I'm sure you have a lot to talk about as well. The floor is yours.
I've got to help Ross out. He's getting a little old, okay? So, Ross the Boss Benjamin, his last 19 football games, 13-4-2, 77%. And dating back since last September 11th, 57-34, 62.6%. So Ross, don't cheat yourself out of that extra percent.
Appreciate that, Ro.
63%. All good. Like I said, it is a pleasure to have worked with you guys this year. It is so nice to learn from you each week. It's been great for me on the show, and thanks everyone for joining us this year on this final week of the regular season. We'll still be around for the bowls and championships, so we're not saying goodbye, but I did drop a 5% last week. I had a birthday special, and I will say this. I remember listening to Ross a few weeks ago, and we all have these where we have a bad week and you lose. And when you have a good handicapper off a losing week, that really is the time to jump on them. It's like the old Patriots. When Belichick and Brady were off a loss, they were money the next week. All three of us put the dedication in and work harder. So, again, I did drop a college football 5%. I will have one this Saturday. College football 5%, 13-3, 81%. Football 5%. I'm number one at WagerTalk. Football 5% the last year, going 23-7, 77%. College football and NFL combined, best bets. Those are 4% and 5%. Now 43-9, 69%. And my NFL teaser best bets, 21-5, 81%. So the Weekend Warrior will be around for $49, but guys, do not buy it. For $18 more, you're getting all 7 days of NBA, NHL, and college basketball, plus the rest of the week for football. There's only one thing to buy. It's our biggest special every year. We sell more packages than any other special we ever run. $67. Take any of us, take all three of us, and no matter what, have a safe and happy Thanksgiving week.
Absolutely. All right. That is promotion time. We've gotten through our rundown. Our best bets are coming up. But, of course, first we are getting to your guys' questions in the chat. Goose, a lot of O's in Goose. It's Goose7. He has some pre-Saturday plays he shared with us. We've already talked about the Mississippi State game. We've already talked about Texas A&M, Texas. But a couple other ones there. I've seen some support for the dog Thursday night. Navy and Memphis are the lone Thanksgiving college football matchup. I'll say this. Navy was very kind to me against South Florida their last time out, plus 10.5. I got a great number. Didn't matter what number I got because they won that game outright. That was a good one there. I don't like to lay points against service academies, but Memphis is a tough out. All those teams in the American, generally speaking, are so much better at home than on the road. That was a big reason why I played Navy. They were a home dog against South Florida. I think Memphis is going to find a way to win that game in the Liberty Bowl. Georgia Tech, I see you've got in there, Goose. I don't know how they get off the mat after having their season wrecked last week. I mean, now they're on the outside looking in when it comes to the ACC championship game, let alone the college football playoff. This was a team that was not as good as its record. And, Kirby has got Georgia peaking at the right time. All of a sudden, those slow starts we saw from the Bulldogs, Ross, kind of a thing of the past now because they have come out barking the last couple weeks. Georgia has. I don't know. I don't really want to step in front of Georgia. I know that it's a rivalry, and it was obviously it went to 1 million overtimes last year, but I don't know if I want to take it with Georgia Tech against Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, when you asked me about Georgia Tech and Pitt last week, I said, I don't like to give out games when I have a bias. I had a bias because I had Georgia Tech plus 700 to win the ACC before the season started, but I also said that if I was to look at this game clearly with an unbiased mind, that I thought Pitt was the play, and obviously they were. I don't know. Now is it an overcompensation now because they lost last week and they're out of it? It's a rivalry game, but you're right. Georgia seems to be peaking at the right time, and Georgia Tech really never peaked, in my opinion. No, they have a great record, but the bottom line is that, like Bryan said, it's probably an overrated team just based on the close results they had against seemingly inferior opposition and lucky to win a couple games.
You know what, Bryan? Watching the Ohio State game last week, it was very refreshing for Ryan Day to say, listen, I don't give a shit of the score early. I'm going to play slow. I don't care to score points. My defense is only playing 52 games per game. That's the lowest in college football. Kirby Smart has the exact same attitude. His defense is that he runs slow plays. He wants to keep his defense fresh. And we're seeing these elite college football coaches treat the beginning of the season now like an NFL team does, worrying about KC doesn't worry about what happens in weeks 1, 2, and 3. They want to get Mahomes ready for the playoffs, although it's going to hurt him this year a little bit. But, the same thing aside, we are seeing a maturation of college football elite head coaches treating their teams like NFL teams, not worrying about an early season loss because it doesn't affect them one iota. But with that said, this Georgia defense allowing 500 yards to NC State and 500 yards to Boston College against a Georgia team that runs the ball well, passes the ball well, doesn't give up sacks, doesn't get a lot of sacks, but they do have enough to shut this team down. They're only allowing 3.0 yards per carry on offense. So the quarterback, Haynes King, is great. He opened a lot of people's eyes early in the season, but this team is ready and prepped for him. I do like Georgia.
Yeah, you made a very good point there at the start, Ralph. I think you're gonna hear a lot about it. Let's say it's Ohio State and Indiana next week at the Big Ten championship game, which is what most people presume it will be. Indiana is kind of the new kid on the block in terms of being a national power, so it made sense for them to want to run up the score, kind of announce their presence. Whereas Ohio State, you're talking about a team won the national championship last year, and Ryan Day, I completely concur. He understands now college football. It's not just 12 games in a bowl. Okay. You're going to be playing 14, 15, 16 games, including a conference championship, and you want to stay healthy. He knew his schedule. And Ohio State, Ryan Day, I think, did an extraordinary job keeping this team fresh for the stretch run. And I don't blame Cignetti for what he did in Bloomington either. All right.
By the way, Brian, if my power ratings have Ohio State 6.5 against Indiana in a neutral. So we'll see how close that is if they both win.
I'm a little lower, but I don't. But at the same time, that yours feels right. Like I kind of was looking at my power ratings. I'm like, God, I wouldn't play Indiana at that number. But again, Ohio State, guys, has not won a Big Ten championship since 2020. I think they might be hungry for that, even though everyone's going to tell you they don't care.
Watch out for, if I could, just one quick thought on the Navy Memphis. Navy has played Memphis awful tough over the years, even in a lot of times without as good a team as they have this year. I think we'll see a lot of points scored in this game. Memphis doesn't stop anybody. They score a lot. And Navy sort of the same ilk. I mean, and Ralph, Navy throws the ball a lot more than they used to in years past. And they're a very diverse offense. So we may see a lot of points. And I think this game's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people anticipate, because a lot of people thinking Memphis is the better team. They may be, but every team that plays Navy is more talented in the American, except for maybe Army. Okay, if you stop and think about it. So
Charlotte,
yeah,
they're struggling. They're struggling under Tim Albin, former Ohio U head coach, and
it's amazing. These service academies are always at the bottom of the recruiting rankings in terms of classifying how good their incoming freshman class is. Yet they, when it comes to Army and Navy, anyway, in the last couple of years, they've contended for a conference title.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about points. I was just going to throw this real quick, Ralph. I mentioned I was on Navy when they upset South Florida. And, I felt pretty good having 10.5 in my back pocket. That said, I believe, I'll go back and check, I think the last 7 drives of that game between all ended in touch. Like, they were just trading. So I was up 3. I was up 10, up 3. So I felt good with the cover the whole way. But still, I mean, it was just touchdown.
Yeah, all but one. I think all but one South Florida drive in the second half resulted in a score.
Yeah, I go back to that. I go back to that USF Memphis game. Oh my God! If there was 3 seconds on the clock, that was too much time to leave USF on the clock to drive down. It was crazy how fast those teams went down. The latter part of the third quarter and the fourth quarter. I've never seen a game like that in the second half.
Adam, as you can see on the screen, wants to know about my alma mater, Ohio University. They're in Buffalo this week. We know after last night, one team that will be playing for the MAC championship, Western Michigan. Ohio is not a win and they're in situation. There's a tiebreaker that will be involved, possibly with rival Miami of Ohio, and then the winner of Toledo Central Michigan. I think the Bobcats are going to get squeezed out of the MAC championship game, but I think they roll. This Buffalo team, I wrote about it a couple of weeks ago when I played Central Michigan against Buffalo. I thought this Buffalo team was extremely fraudulent. This is a team that struggled to beat UMass. Anyone who has wanted to put themselves through the misery of watching a UMass game this year knows that may be the worst team that we have seen in recent. UMass would be at least a 7-point dog to last year's Kent State team, who I thought was the worst team I'd seen at the FBS level in recent memory. So they struggled to beat Kent State. Buffalo, so I think OU, as long as they don't get caught playing with their food, they can go in and they can at least handle their business, hoping we can get back to the MAC championship game. But I don't know. I think the tiebreakers
the forecast is looking like a lot of snow in Buffalo on Thursday and Friday. So keep that
Parker
in mind.
Navarro can take care of it. I think.
Well, again, snow doesn't affect you. You got to check the winds. If the winds are over 10 miles an hour, make sure you're adjusting if you have the pass team, in that game.
All right. We've talked. I see some people asking about Ohio State, Michigan, guys. If you missed the start of the show, you can catch us on the replay. Obviously, that was the game we led off with, Ohio State, Michigan. Ralph will be taking us back to the Big Ten, I know, in his best bet segment. A game sort of at the opposite pecking order, of the opposite end of the pecking order in the Big Ten. But remember, guys, they cash no matter where they are in the pecking order. So let's, what do you say? Let's get to our best bets here. We can, if there's any more questions that trickle in, we can get to those after you this, but let's give ourselves some time to talk about our top plays. Ross, would you like to go first, sir? Here, I know that you missed last week, so we missed you. How about you give us your contribution here to the best bet segment of the show?
I missed you guys as well, and thank you, Brian. I'm going to look at the total in this game, which is 65.5. Look, both of these offenses are dynamic, and both defenses leave a lot to be desired when considering they're the number 12 and 18 team in the country. Vanderbilt 3-0 to the over in their last three, 70 points per game scored in those last three games. And their offense over the last three, 40.3 points per game, 523.7 yards per contest. They've scored 31 points in 9 of their 11 games this year. Tennessee has done the exact same thing. 31 points or more in 9 of 11 games this year. Vandy has also allowed 30-plus points in 4 of their last 6. Diego Pavia, this kid is a good story, and he's exciting to watch. He may not make it to the NFL on the NFL level, but boy, he's one hell of a college quarterback. This year, 72% completion rate, over 2,900 yards passing, 661 yards rushing, and accounting for 34 touchdowns this year in their first 3 games. Tennessee's offense in SEC play, 35.7 points per game and 468 yards per contest. That's pretty damn good when you're facing SEC competition. However, their defense against SEC opponents this year, allowing 32 points per game and over 400 yards per contest. Again, both of these teams are explosive offensively. Both have great passing games. Vandy averaging over 283 yards a game passing. Tennessee just shy of 308. This game, to me, has all the makings of a 41-38, 45-38 type of game, Brian. So I'm going to go over the total. I'm not going to get scared at a high number. It's that high for a reason. Anything 66 or lower, go over the total, Vandy and Tennessee.
All right, that is over in Tennessee, Vandy. Vandy got off to a great start in that game last year and then fell apart. I remember that because I was on Vandy, unfortunately. I was really irritated about that. We'll see if the Commodores pay back, but Ross likes points no matter who wins. I am now going to talk about – I'll give my best bet here. It is in Conference USA. Oh, is this a doozy? Kennesaw State and Liberty. Had a really nice free play for you on last week's show, if you recall. Gave out UTSA plus 2.5 versus East Carolina. Yeah, it was ECU that had everything to play for, but it was the Roadrunners that rolled to a 58-24 victory, jumped out to a 31-0 lead in the first half. Never in doubt there. Was probably the best play I've given out in this segment all year. I can't promise you all it'll be that easy again this week, but a bit of a similar setup as I'm taking Liberty plus 2.5 at home against Kennesaw State. How this play is similar to last week is twofold. Once again, I'm going with a 2.5-point home dog. Also, you've got a road favorite coming in controlling its destiny to get to the conference title game. Kennesaw State gets a major break when Jacksonville State lost last week. For those who don't know, Kennesaw State, Jacksonville State, Western Kentucky, now all come into the final weekend of the regular season with identical 6-1 records in Conference USA. Jacksonville State's playing Western Kentucky on Saturday. So if Kennesaw State wins here, they're going to face the winner of that game in the Conference USA Championship next week. So you have to be thinking to yourself, BP, why aren't we backing Kennesaw as a short favorite here? Well, Owls were really lucky to get by Missouri State last week. Really lucky. Only a 20% post-game win expectancy per Bill Conley. They win on a last-second touchdown. Now let's talk about the Liberty side. If I were to ask you guys to give me a list of the most disappointing teams in the country in all of college football this season, I think most would have Clemson or Penn State at the top. But I say no team has fallen shorter of the mark than Liberty. If you go back to the preseason, this is a Liberty team that expected to compete for a group of 5 spot, the group of 5 spot in the college football playoff. Instead, here we are, final week of the regular season. Flames can't even get bowl eligible. Last week, another brutal loss for Liberty at Louisiana Tech. They lead 28-7 in the second half on the road, 75% post-game win expectancy, and they lose in overtime. Third straight loss by 1 possession. Nevertheless, my numbers say Liberty should be a slight favorite here. I'm going to trust those numbers in what I feel is an ultimate buy low spot. Ross, every week on WagerTalk today, I know you share a game where you think the line makes no sense. Well, here we have a team that simply needs to win to get into the conference title game, facing an opponent that really has nothing to play for, and the line is short. This line stinks. Let's hold our nose for a classic BP special. Liberty plus 2.5. If you would have said at the start of the season, or even a few weeks ago, that Kennesaw State would be favored in this game, you would have been committed to a mental institution. I'm telling you. Give me Liberty or give me death. Everyone should check out that American Revolution documentary on PBS. I thought it was quite good. There's a random TV rec on the show as well. So Liberty is what I'm giving you here. Ralph, close us out.
Well, I am the marquee game. Now, these teams started the season a combined 7-0. They finished the season a combined 0-15. But doesn't mean there's not value. I, of course, am talking about Michigan State and Maryland. This game is in Ford Field in Detroit. And, you know, this is one where even though Michigan State, again, has lost after 3 wins, they've lost every game since. They're winless in the Big Ten. Playing where the Detroit Lions play, because a lot of these kids grew up in that Detroit area, still is something special for them. I think that gives them a little bit of an edge. But really, it's what have you done for me lately in this game? And for me, it's easy. You look at the last 4 weeks. Now, who's played the tougher schedule? Michigan, Minnesota, Penn State, Iowa, when Penn State was playing well, or UCLA, Indiana, Rutgers, and Illinois. Clearly, the first one, which is Michigan State. Well, in the last 4 games against Michigan, Minnesota, Penn State, and Iowa, Michigan is plus 1 yard per game. You look at the other side, Maryland minus 144 yards per game their last 4. Massive difference the way they're finishing. I like Michigan State here to finish it off with a win in the season finale.
All right, there you have it. 3 best bets from Ross, Ralph, and myself. Ross likes over in Vanderbilt, Tennessee. I like Liberty getting 2.5, and Ralph is laying it with Sparty against Maryland. We do have a few minutes left, just a couple more questions here, and we can close it up. Pitt versus Miami. Look, everyone, they're going to manufacture this controversy between Miami and Notre Dame for the college football playoff. I know Miami beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame would be a huge favorite if those teams played. They were a favorite the first time. They'd be a huge favorite if they played again. I do agree that, results of these games should mean something. It's unfortunate for Miami that they're probably going to get squeezed out of the playoff, but they probably shouldn't have lost as a double-digit favorite to SMU and Louisville. I wouldn't want to lay it with Cristobal in this spot.
Miami was a dog, or actually Notre Dame was a dog against
2.5 point dog, I think, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. They were. I apologize. That's right. Yes, that's right.
You know what, Brian? One important thing you said, though, is I think the committee would put a huge amount of stock in head-to-head matchups if it were in the last few weeks. But they have said they're looking at progressions of teams. So a week one loss doesn't hurt you as much as a head-to-head loss 2 weeks ago, which the committee would clearly look at with more emphasis.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone I agree. Yeah, that's right. That Miami was the favorite the first time around. So, all right, let's one more question. Texas Tech, are they giving too many points there? David wants to know. USC, of course, playing UCLA. You talk about a game that doesn't mean what it used to be anymore. Wow. I mean, two teams at the opposite end of the spectrum. All they have in common is they're both in LA. Texas Tech obviously has been a juggernaut. I wouldn't want to get in front of them. I tried a couple weeks ago. I gave out a free play, and that didn't go swimmingly. Needless to say, this Texas Tech team is among the country's elite. I'm really excited, Ross, to see them mix it up with a Big Ten or SEC team in the college football playoff down the line, assuming they get there.
They one of the best defenses in the country for a team not named Ohio State. And they could score, too. And the differences in this game is going to be the two defenses. I think Texas Tech is on par with USC offensively, but defensively, there's no comparison, Ralph. I think that
isn't it weird? Isn't it weird to hear there's a Big 12 team that has a physical defense that is elite? When's the last time we said that? So, yeah, Texas Tech could be an SEC or a Big Ten team this year. There's no question. They fit in. There's, I think I only have them. I think I have them 4 points behind Ohio State, who's my top team in my power ratings.
Yeah, and I would be less inclined to lay it with USC guys. Obviously, this is a team they had their chance last week to kind of to try to slime their way into the college football playoff. They come up short against Oregon, now laying more than 3 touchdowns. I know UCLA has been terrible in recent weeks, but I don't know. That's a lot of points to lay.
But at least they are allowed to wear their colored uniforms against each other. It's still the best lineup in sports when they walk out. Just to watch the red and the blue, it's still a neat. It's still. Then you turn the game off right after you see the jerseys once, and you're good to go.
Yeah, it does. It's a lot better than when Alabama plays Arkansas or something like that, and you're like, who the hell's up? All right. I think that is going to do it for this edition of the Blitz. We thank you all for joining us. Again, before you leave, why not smash that like button? Don't forget to click subscribe as well. Annie, if you're catching us on the replay, you can still comment down below. If Ross, Ralph, or I see your question in time, we'll be more than happy to answer it. We hope you all have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Yes, we will be back next week for conference championship weekend. Obviously, a much smaller slate, so we can dive maybe a little bit deeper into those games. Until then, let's cash some tickets.